Good morning to all of you here in Naryn, and those of you, my friends in Khorog. I was able to spend time with you in the past, and I was not able to join you this time, but I'm so excited to be with all of you. Your Excellency, Dr. Kenya Kenderbaeva. Dr. Kulkenderbaeva. I apologize, I'm still learning these Central Asian names. The Minister of Education and Science of the Kyrgyz Republic. Safar Doza Dilshod Ghani, the Deputy Minister of Education and Science of the Republic of Tajikistan. Dr. Shams Kashim Laka, whose name I've been saying for about 50 years, so I've got that one. Chairman of the Board of Trustees. Members of the board who are here, thank you. Acting Rector Chris Gary. Maxim Komegakov, Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, the UCA faculty and staff, the parents and family members, the distinguished guests who are here, and of course, as everyone before me has pointed out, most of all, you, the graduates of the class of 2024. Congratulations. This is a major, major, major accomplishment. I've spoken to so many of you over the last couple of days, and I'm sure you've all been wondering, particularly you students, as you've heard me getting sicker and sicker and my voice going away, I was wondering whether I would have a voice to deliver this speech this morning. And yet I woke up on this beautiful sunny day, and by some miracle on the day of your graduation, here I am with a stronger voice than I have had since I've been here. I imagine that is because the intent has been that you will not remember me in 25 years just as the guy who had a bad voice. You're going to actually listen to what I've got to say. So I'm glad to be with you and in good health this morning. I'm so honored to deliver this year's convocation address, to be able to speak to you in what really is a magical place on this very special day. I know in Khorog, people told me, and here in Naryn, people have told me that eventually you get used to this natural beauty around you. I'm not sure that's true. But for me, it's a special honor to be in Central Asia. I have worked with University of Central Asia students before, and I know firsthand how bright and how curious and how hardworking you all are. In 2018, I was invited to the Khorog campus in Tajikistan, in part to help lead a business plan competition for UCA students. Now, the business plan competition followed a similar structure to those types of competitions for which I've been involved in the United States. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea. Groups of students have to identify a business problem in their locality or their country or their region, and they have to find a solution that can be applied at a local level. Through the course of the competition, I was able to teach some of these students macroeconomic principles, and I exposed them to lessons and examples of small ideas that had become big economic successes and which in the process brought prosperity and success both to the people who undertook these risks and to their families and their communities and their countries and their regions. And those students in 2018, like you, were all a bit different from the students I had mentored before. The students in Tajikistan were from countries I hadn't spent much, if any, time in, from cultures about which I knew very little, and had names which, as you heard, I have difficulty in pronouncing. But other than that, they were the same as everyone I've ever met. I arrived with no idea of what to expect. Their proposed business projects were incredible. They were as motivating, as exciting, as good, and as able to be invested in as those of students I have mentored in America who had grown up in the infrastructure of startups, which is what successful business plans become. Those students in Khorog taught me that if you give people the resources, they have the capacity to do great things. Your capacity for innovation has absolutely nothing to do with where you are from. Given the necessary tools, every single one of us is capable of making real strides toward bettering not just ourselves, but our communities, our societies, our countries, our regions, and as Dr. Gary said, the world. That is the key here. You all, University of Central Asia graduates, you have been given this incredible power, this power of transformative knowledge that you have only just begun to cultivate. This is your opportunity. The key to success is a place where potential, with which every single human being is born, potential intersects with opportunity. Opportunity is what you have been given with this incredible education that you have. Opportunity was what you seized when you applied, you accepted admission, and you commenced your studies at UCA. And in the meantime, you have learned not only from cutting-edge professors, but from your sharp, witty peers on these beautiful campuses among the mountains. I have had the privilege of speaking with many of you over the last couple of days, and of course, in Khorog the last time, and you are smart, and you are witty, and you are challenging, and you have learned from each other, and you are teaching each other things, and you will continue to do so. And one thing you've learned is hard work. And as Shams Kashamlaka said, you have persevered. But for some people in the world, despite perseverance, despite hard work, opportunity does not come to them. For you, it did. Your diploma is proof that the bolt of lightning struck. Opportunity struck you. You grabbed the bolt, you claimed it. And now you get to take that energy out into the world that desperately, desperately needs you. Central Asia needs you. This is a pivotal moment for all of us around the world, but it is a pivotal moment for Central Asia because climate change is ravaging this region's ecological infrastructure through intense heat waves, through droughts, through heavy rainfall, devastating floods, hurt agricultural yields. It leads to a crisis of food insecurity. This is the problem that's amplified for communities like the ones from which many of you come, in mountain villages. 22 million people in this part of the world still lack access to clean drinking water. Globally, nations face teacher and resource shortages. They lack enough textbooks and other materials necessary for childhood learning, which is the most important learning of all. And this difficulty in accessing education makes the existential issues that we face as humankind even scarier. And that is what makes your achievements today, graduating from the University of Central Asia, even more notable. You have spent years learning about the myriad issues facing your countries, your generations, your cultures, and you do not need me, a guy from across the world, telling you about these issues or about your hard work and how much you did to get here, or about what you need to do to help your countries and your people. No one knows that better than you do. You know what needs to get fixed. My only job here is to encourage you to go out and actually fix it. Make it your mission to dedicate yourself and your work and possibly the rest of your lives to the service of others. And those others can be others inside your own household. They can be your extended family. They can be your community. They can be your nation. They can be your region. They can be the entire world. I graduated from university 30 years ago. It was a vastly different time in a country very unlike the one in which we stay, the ones in which we are now. But perhaps if I tell you a little bit about my story, you will see yourselves in it. I knew vaguely that I was interested in journalism, but I had no clear direction as to how I would pursue that or what I would pursue. Nobody in my family was involved in journalism, and I was a minority immigrant in Canada. Nobody in journalism looked like me. And perhaps to some degree, I was looking for something to do with my life that was outside of my family's industry. Because my family's industry was public service. Some people see public service as something that they don't have time for. But my parents were different. The way they saw it, even if public service isn't something you love to do, it is something that must get done. The potholes in the streets do not fix themselves. The libraries and the hospitals do not fund themselves. The garbage does not pick itself up. And while we often think of these things as the responsibility of the government works best with the input and the participation of the public. You know what is best for your community and your society, which means you have to be involved to make the changes that you know need to be made. Now, when I was your age, I understood why all of this mattered and that someone had to get it done. I just didn't really think I needed to be the one to get it done. I graduated from university, as you are, wide-eyed, and unlike today, I was remarkably optimistic. Today, it is very hard for young people to look at the world optimistically because there are so many challenges in it. Mine was a simpler time. I started my career as a journalist wanting to make an impact, but I certainly did not think of my career as a journalist as a public service. To me, I graduated from university and I got a job. It was not a public service. And as I got further into my career, exposed to all the problems facing my city and my country and my region and the world, it did not occur to me doing my job would have any meaningful impact on any of those big problems. It did not occur to me that there was any way that I could really make a change. I was a reporter for my local news station. It was limited to my city, Toronto, and the areas around it. I reported on car accidents, house fires, murders, little kittens that got stuck in trees. Like I said, those are simpler times. The kitten stuck in the tree was the most exciting. Sometimes we would bring 3 or 4 cameras so you could watch the firemen rescue the kitten from multiple angles. Much simpler times. Canada. I grew up in Canada. It got very, very cold in winter. On one uniquely cold day, I was assigned to go to the Toronto Zoo to do a story about how it was so cold that the polar bears at the zoo were trying to get back inside their enclosure to stay warm. Now, think about this. Stories about how cold and snowy in a place, how cold and snowy it was in a place that is naturally cold and snowy, made me feel a little bit dumb. They did not make me feel like I was challenging anything. They did not make me feel like I was going to change the world, even a little bit. After working in local news, I moved on to business and economic reporting. I became Canada's first prime-time business anchor. Prime time is the most important time in the news. It's when people are home after work and after dinner and they watch the news on TV. I interviewed economists and political and business leaders about big industry shakeups. I reported more about what happened than why it happened, even though the why is always more important than the fact that something happened. I didn't ask the really important questions about whether what was being done was the right thing to do, morally or ethically. I didn't interrogate much at all. I was not doing the most important things that my profession, journalism, is meant to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I was successful, otherwise I wouldn't be your speaker today. But intellectually, it was all a little bit lazy. To me, my journalism was a good job. It was not a public service, as I said. I was not contributing to progress on the issues that really mattered to my community, to my city, to my country, or to my world. And at some point, doing it that way simply stopped being enough. In trying to understand the role of my work in my community, I started to think of my family and the way they looked at how work and public service combine with one another. They are not separate things to them. Let me tell you just a little bit about my family background. My great-grandparents fled drought and debt under British colonialism in India. My grandfather was raised as a peace advocate in South Africa. He was the youngest student of the great Mahatma Gandhi, the legendary Indian freedom fighter, whose work led to Indian independence from Great Britain in 1947. My father, who had no university education, was the first person of South Asian descent to be elected to major political office in Canada. My mother, who didn't even finish high school, ran for even more senior office than my father held in Canada and would have been elected if she didn't choose to step out of the election to care for my ailing grandmother who had raised me but who had become ill just prior to what would have been her election. My sister was also a politician. She worked for local and state elected representatives and as a civil servant, and she ran for office. All three of them, my mother, my father, and my sister, were immigrants to Canada. They were immigrants to Kenya before that. Everyone in my family is a double immigrant. Still, they felt a burning desire to become involved and make their new community, their new chosen community, better and stronger. Prior to all this civic involvement, my family had suffered economic hardship. They had suffered political persecution, and yet through it all, they never succumbed to hopelessness. They never succumbed to despair. They never resigned themselves to the idea that their actions were futile or that they had no agency in determining their own path in life and their own success. At every critical juncture, they choose to use what resources they had to make the biggest difference that they could. Sometimes for the sake of their own survival, but often for the good of the community and the larger society around them. And I call these their small acts of courage. I've learned from those acts, and now I realize that it's not what you are qualified to do, but it is who you are. The change you want to make, combined with the qualifications that you have earned and the opportunities with which you have been presented. That's what matters. Now, today, at my age, I'm much older than you are. I'm more than double all of your age. Now, today, I realize the importance of the role I play. I am a journalist. I do not want to be the kind of journalist that takes on the easy issues. I want to take on the hard ones, the ones upon which my attention and my resources can actually have an effect. And now, as graduates of the University of Central Asia, you all are suddenly endowed with the power of resources. So the question to you all becomes, what impact can you have? What can your small acts of courage be? Recent history is full of examples for you, worldwide, of course, but right here in Central Asia. Take the story of the Velshi in Naryn, where access to healthcare faces huge hurdles because of the terrain that you're in. One courageous Velshi not only administers vaccines, but dedicates herself to educating and empowering her community about the importance of vaccines. It may seem like a very small thing, a small population of mountain-dwelling people living in Naryn, but that Velshi, she is saving lives. Even if you save one life, it's all that matters. Maybe you're not interested in health sciences, so that doesn't resonate with you. So take the story of the postdoctoral researcher from Kazakhstan who now works on accessibility systems in the United Kingdom. There she acts as a mentor for girls in Kazakhstan, empowering them to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Again, that may seem small, and yet she is laying the foundation for technological empowerment for a whole generation of Kazakh girls. Maybe mentorship is not appealing to you right now. So take the teams of engineers in Tajikistan who are helping to improve water access for residents who are experiencing a critical water shortage in Katlan, one of the country's driest regions. Those engineers, they're just doing their jobs, but they're orienting themselves toward resources. There's something truly infectious about the energy of people who dare to think big, even when the tangible scale of their actions is actually quite small. People who aren't daunted by the sheer scope and size and nature of problems in the world. Because in order to succeed, you have to ask for unreasonable, outsized things, to spark the world's imagination, to make people question whether a better world is possible. And you, all of you, now have the power to be those people, to ask, and more importantly than to ask, to act. Do not squander that power. Decades from now, your children and your grandchildren will ask you about this time of remarkable change in which you graduated. Do not be haunted by the risks you didn't take, by the dreams that you did not pursue. When they ask you what you did, be proud to tell them what you did to change your world, your community, your region, your country. because there is nothing but opportunity in front of you today. Choose purpose. Choose courage. Choose change. Choose to make things better for those around you, and you will make things better for the world. Start with small acts. With each small success, you will get stronger and better able to solve bigger problems. Class of 2024, there is an entire world waiting for you on the other side of your diploma. I am so very excited for you to go out and explore, to discover, and to change the world. Be smart, have courage, make change. Congratulations.